So, update time. I am in a new office. It's been a great move coming into this space because there are a lot of windows bringing in a lot of natural light, making it just generally a very pleasant place to be doing work in, which brings me to the work. So the first thing that I'll talk about that I've done since March, which was my last update, and most of us know what happened in March.
Does anyone else feel like the air in here is kind of chunky?
It postponed a lot of the work that I had lined up, and at that point I needed to figure out what I was going to be occupying my time with. So there were a couple things that I did. One was figure out just a short film that I could do, and ended up doing 2 short films. Second was to find some bands or musicians that I could do a music video for, and ended up finding 3 bands and musicians to do music videos for. So that was a big success. And the purpose of doing all of that was to just bide my time to get to the other side of the postponing and be able to do some work for those companies again. So starting back from number 1 were the short films. One of the short films that I did was called Recorded with a Potato, which by its title alone, you know that it's going to be an intelligent film. This project came out of just purely needing a project to do during the postponed work that I had. Something that I could do on a creative level that was going to allow me to learn some new tricks behind the camera, as a director, I guess as a writer. Not exactly the thing I'm the most proud of when it comes to writing, but not really the point. It was just something to do that could be done, something that could be finished. Recorded with a Potato was literally the first time I had ever worked with green screen. And I had done my homework on it. I had never worked on another set where we were doing anything with green screen, which is really funny to me because I feel like I would have encountered that at some point, but just literally never did. A little ambitious for a first time green screen user, but I wanted to do it. It seemed funny to me, and so we went ahead and did it. There are definitely a few things I would do differently if I were to do it again, but it was a great first time experience, which actually kind of worked into another project that I did this summer for one of the music videos. So I'm really glad that I had done work with the green screen before that other project. So as I was finishing up Recorded with Potato, I needed a song that was going to go with the cosmic trip sequence that JD was going through. And I was looking through all the royalty-free music, and nothing was even really close to being a fitting piece of music because it didn't have what I saw as the necessary complexity. I had just been in contact with this band out of New York called Time King, and I'd been listening to their music for probably about 6 months at that time. One of their songs came to mind. It was from their song Jungle Cruise, and just this middle portion of the song that goes crazy. I just thought, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in there, and if it works, then I'll reach out to them and see if they're cool with me using it. And so I did, and it fit very nicely. Sent it to their lead singer, and didn't hear back for a couple hours, but when I heard back, it was a resounding yes, and that actually led into me doing their music video this summer, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. The punchline of this short was kind of niche, and if you didn't have the context or the cultural reference to Creed as a band, then it probably wasn't gonna make a lot of sense, maybe not funny at all. But that was something that I kind of knew going into it, that I had to be okay with the fact that it was only going to appeal to a very niche audience. For those of you that need to know, find a friend that was really into grunge in the 90s and the early 2000s, and they'll probably fill you in. Or just watch Creed Shreds for 1,000 Yes Ayahs. So after I finished Recorded with a Potato, I was lining up these music videos with these various artists and was getting ready to go travel out to North Carolina to go visit my wife's family. I get a phone call from Daniel Barry. Daniel is telling me that there is the 72-hour film festival put on by Peter McKinnon. The difficulty was I was driving after it had already started, so I wasn't really able to do much until I got to North Carolina. We had only loosely started coming up with ideas on Friday, which was the first day of the 72 hours. Didn't start writing something until Saturday, and that was also when we started filming. So it was more like a 48-hour film festival for us as opposed to the 72 hours. But that's all right. We just wanted to do something else that was going to be done, completed, finished, whatever. A funny thing about that short film was that we kind of had to change the whole ending due to two different things. One was one of our actors not really being comfortable with what we had written, so they wrote their own thing. And then suddenly realizing after everything had been shot and we were a couple hours away from the deadline of it needing to be submitted, we realized we forgot to get one very particular shot. Because we missed that shot, the ending that we had set up wouldn't make any sense. So had to completely redo in post what the structure of that whole thing was. So, you know, it makes enough sense. So after the two short films that we had done, it was sort of music videos and work for a couple different companies at that point. So I'll talk about Windsor One first. Thomas Barry and I had gone out to California, specifically the San Francisco, north of San Francisco area, and we shot 2 days worth of footage for Windsor One trim. And we got a bunch of great footage. And since then, we put all that stuff together and made, I think we're sitting at 6 pieces right now, with a 7th on the way. I'd strongly recommend looking into Windsor One if you are renovating your home. They make great trim, maybe the best trim on the market. They really go to extraordinary lengths to make sure that their stuff is just a cut above everybody else's. And it was really fascinating to hear specifically from their chief engineer, Charlie Holm, about his history at the company and what he does in order to make sure that their stuff is good. We got a lot of videos out of specifically just letting him talk and telling stories about how he first started coming up with some of the designs for this trim, and just the level of specificity and tightness that everything, all the measurements have to be in order for this stuff to turn out the way that it does. It's pretty remarkable. If you haven't seen any of that, I'd strongly recommend checking it out, especially if you're renovating your home or you are working with building supply stores or you're a contractor. If you're a contractor building houses. So the other two companies that I'd done a little bit of work for were Classic Wood Floors and Hood Hub. Classic Wood Floors is primarily a floor restoration company, and their owner, James Irquidez, does all the restorations pretty much himself. He'll have a few other workers that come in and help him with the finishing generally. But I had filmed him restoring a floor in an old high school here in Moscow, Idaho, that is now a event center called the 1912 Center. It was amazing to see these old torn up floors in person go from what they were to something that had still a little bit of character to it, but was clean, finished, and new looking. That video hasn't been released yet, but I'll preview a little bit of footage from that. And then finally, the last company was Hood Hub, which I did something very small for, basically just a little informational video. They had filmed themselves and I just edited some infographic stuff. And that's pretty much it for the companies. Now, finally, my biggest focus recently has probably been these 3 music videos that I've been working on. So the Time King video I had shot in North Carolina with, again, Thomas Barry, and then the help of a number of his relatives, Daniel Barry, James Barry, John Barry, and then my father-in-law, Frank Berry. They were all involved in one way or another and sort of just kind of helping on set to make the visual come together. One of those things was blue screen visual effects, and we had done that with John Barry getting into the blue screen suit and manipulating some tree branches and bushes to make it look like they were moving by themselves. I'd never done a visual effect like that before, but it turned out pretty well. The next big effect, if you could call it that, was the tree drop. And that was pretty fortuitous the way that that came about. I was still finalizing the concept for the video and hadn't yet come up with a concrete idea for the climax of it. He's looking out from the deck, and normally you can see a mountain called Grandfather Mountain, but there are these two trees that had grown up in the way of the view. And he says, "Man, I gotta cut those trees down." So I just make that face at him and he immediately understands. So from there, it's basically just making sure that we have all the footage that we need before we drop the trees to make sure that the visual comes off the way that we need it to. The filming of the tree drop itself was a little nerve-wracking because in order to make sure that we got a good angle on it, we had to have a lot of cameras in a lot of different places. And you can normally tell where you're gonna drop the tree, but it's never a 100% for sure thing. And to have a $3,000, $4,000 camera down from where the tree was going to be falling, we were just hoping that it was going to go where it was going to go. But Frank, being very experienced in dropping trees, he made it land exactly where it needed to go, and we got pretty much precisely the angle that we wanted. So at that point, it was just having Thomas run around and jump out of the way where the tree had already landed, and I complimented later to make it look like he was jumping out of the way.
It's cracking! It's going!
So the final thing that needed to be done for the video was to have the Spirit of the Woods animated for it, and that was done by Justin Hatcher. He did an amazing job, and he did it pro bono. So if you're not yet already following him on Instagram, this is his handle. Give him a follow. So we wrapped up filming for the Time King video, and I come back to Moscow, Idaho for a single day before getting back on an airplane to go to California to meet Thomas Barry there to film for the Windsor 1 stuff. After we film everything for Windsor 1, we drive down to Cambria, California to film the next music video for a guy named Alexander Morgan. But you can call him Schmorgel. So that whole thing came about from me seeing Alex getting featured on Andrew Huang's YouTube channel. And so I reached out at that time and asked him if he would want to do a music video with me directing it. And he was interested. We stayed in contact, and then when I finally had a date that I was set to go to California, we figured out the details. Came up with a concept of Alex basically interrogating himself in this room, and we didn't have any of the props purchased the day that we were gonna start shooting. We just had a location rented out. And so we went to the hardware store, bought a card table, bought a desk lamp, bought some chairs, found it all at the same store, and it worked out pretty well. Even after we bought all of those pieces, we were still piecing together what the second half of the song was going to be visually. Alex knew about this grove of trees out by the beach, and they're all planted in a very orderly, sort of mathematical way. After we finished filming the interrogation scene, we just went out there, shot the rest of the video, and I pieced it together in post. But that one turned out well. It's gotten some great response. I'm hoping to do more with Alex, and I actually just got a phone call from him today.
I won't spoil it.
The car, and that was the car I was driving a lot in LA when I was writing this song. When I turn on the car, it goes, ba-da-da. Yeah. Ba-da-da. Well. I wonder if it has anything to do with that.
There's a hair. So So the final project is actually finished, but it is yet to be released.
Pause. It's actually releasing today. When I had filmed this, we didn't have a release date set, but it is actually dropping today, December 2nd. So go and check it out. It's on YouTube, and there'll be an article written up on it on buzzbands.la.
This is a music video for the artist Blue, that's B-L-E-U. Blue is a musician that I've been following since 2008. His actual name is William James Macaulay III, and I don't know where the nickname Blue comes from, but that's what they call him. So, I was introduced to him by my older brother when I was visiting him in New York, and ever since I heard that first song from him, You Know, I Know, You Know, I was instantly hooked, and I wanted to learn more about him and see what else he had done. Turns out that he had actually written a bunch of songs for some very big pop acts like Selena Gomez, Jonas Brothers, and Demi Lovato, and Hanson. On top of that, he was doing all of these side projects. I was looking into those. Some of those side projects being a band called LEO, which was an ELO send-up band. They only cover, I think, one ELO song, but everything else is original, done in the style of Electric Light Orchestra, and it is remarkable how good of a job they do in doing that, and it's great music. And then another side project they had done that was sort of a Beatles send-up in a way, called The Major Labels, and it's kind of a progressive pop sound, and it's fantastic. It's so good. And another side project that Blue had done called Loud Lion, which was a send-up to Def Leppard. Unbelievable how accurate it is. So long story short, despite all of that history, I was following Blue for all these years, and I'd gotten an email being on his mailing list that had said that he was releasing a new album. He didn't know quite what he was doing with it yet, and he thought, might as well just start releasing some tracks from it. That second statement, didn't quite know what he was doing with it yet, made me realize that that was an opportunity for me to reach out. So I reached out, and we started a conversation. I offered to shoot a music video for him, and that's what we have. The music video is for his song, I Want to Write You a Symphony. So, I think that's everything. The future. I am looking for the next projects to do. And if you're a band that needs a music video done, I would love to do your music video. Let me know, hit me up. I'm bored. If you're a company that needs video done, or marketing done, or an advertising campaign done, we are your people. That is what we do, and we're looking for the next clients to be doing this stuff for. I'm happy to work with you when it comes to the you-know-what stuff of 2020, and we can work remote. I can come to you, you can come to me. Whatever you're really comfortable with. Is that it? I think that might be it. It's my coffee. Probably cold now. Yep. This is Graeme with Small Media Large saying, look at my background. It looks so good. Compliment me.